Hello everyone. ゆっくりレ夢ムです。
ゆっくりマリサだぜ。
What are you doing today?
I'm going to the Ukraine problem today.
Ukraine has suddenly become in a bad state, hasn't it?
That's right. In Japan it wasn't a big topic until a while ago. In Europe this problem was quite a big fuss.
It's like the European version of the Senkaku/Taiwan issue.
Yes. Ukraine today is a relatively new country that became independent in 1991. The fire of this problem has been around since then. This time including the history from that time. I would like to explain the problem that is currently occurring.
Let's get started.
First of all about the country of Ukraine. Ukraine today is a country that became independent of the Soviet Union in 1991.
It's a relatively new country, isn't it?
Yes. Before independence it was part of the Soviet Union. And was called the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. In the Soviet Union it is the second largest country after Russia. In the geography class I learned that the country has the most fertile land in the world.
It is in Ukraine that Chernobyl was there.
Belarus in the north was called White Russia during the Soviet era. For some reason during the Soviet era the Soviet Union had three seats. In the United Nations, Russia, Ukraine and White Russia. Ukraine is a country closely related to Russia rather than the Soviet Union. Ukraine is in crisis. It's all about joining the EU and NATO. It is NATO that Russia is particularly concerned about.
That's right. First let's take a look at what NATO is like from the situation in Europe after World War II.
After World War II, Europe will be divided into a capitalist bloc and a communist bloc. The border is drawn in the middle of Germany. The western side is the United States and Western European countries. On the east side the Soviet Union is the Ally, and Eastern European countries, such as East Germany, Poland and Czechoslovakia confront each other. This is called the Cold War era.
At that time there was no country called Ukraine.
Yes. It's still part of the Soviet Union. In this era Western European countries formed an economic alliance called EC. And in terms of military affairs they formed a military alliance called NATO.
Eastern European countries create a Comecon and Warsaw Pact.
Until the 1970s, both sides fought evenly. From the 1980s the superiority of the West will be noticeable. Then in 1985 Gorbachev appeared in the Soviet Union. He tried to reform the inferior Soviet Union. It wasn't successful. The revolution of Eastern Europe broke out in 1989. The governments of Eastern European countries will collapse.
In a short period of time they will fall from the north like domino effects.
Eastern European countries didn't like to join the communist bloc. It will become a capitalist country one after another in the Eastern European Revolution.
There is one special country among such Eastern European countries.
It's East Germany. Because Germany was divided between the capitalist and communist blocs during the occupation, the country has also been divided.
With the collapse of East Germany there is no reason for Germany to be divided.
But there was a problem. From the Soviet Union's point of view, the disappearance of East Germany and the change to West Germany. The number of military allies will decrease and the number of hostile countries will increase. Military boundaries will also approach the Soviet Union. It is said that there was such a story there.
This is the story just before the unification of Germany.
With the collapse of East Germany this is an opportunity to unify Germany. But unless the Soviet Union is okay it cannot be unified. It cannot be a neutral country like Switzerland. That's it. The East Germany part should be a neutral zone.
Unified Germany joins NATO, but NATO troops do not deploy in the East German part.
As unified Germany can't help joining NATO. No other country will join NATO right? In 1990 Germany was integrated in the form of West Germany absorbing the East. and the former Huge Germany was born. The treaty at that time agreed and included that foreign troops. That is NATO troops would not be deployed in the East German region.
But was there a promise that other countries will not join NATO? It's not sure.
Yes. Only Gorbachev claims that.
However, there are no treaties or documents that make such promises.
Even if there was such a conversation. Normally, it's a matter of saying or not saying it later, so they'll include it in the document.
Let's see after that.
Germany which wants Oberon as was unified. Our enemy is Russia not Germany. Russia's rule is already disciplined. During the Hungarian Revolution of the 1960s the United States and NATO did not help. We should also join NATO. Exactly. We should join NATO.
I don't know if there was a promise not to include Eastern European countries in NATO. The United States created an organization called Partnership for Peace instead of NATO. Eastern European countries and Russia were added to the organization.
But Eastern European countries are not convinced by such an organization.
Exactly. In 1999 Poland, Hungary and Czech Republic joined NATO. After that membership continued one after another. Right now it's in this state.
Most of them are in NATO.
The promise is ignored. America can't avoid help those who want freedom. So it can't refuse the country that wants to join NATO.
And now Ukraine and Georgia Moldova are saying they want to join NATO.
Yes. Ukraine and Georgia are the former Soviet Union. Once upon a time Russia was furious every time Eastern European countries entered NATO. With Ukraine joining NATO, Russia's patience bug is running out.
Russia is already out.
Yes.
Now let's take a look at the domestic situation in Ukraine.
In Ukraine due to historical background and Soviet national policy, the western part has a large proportion of Ukrainians, and the eastern part has a large proportion of Russians. Therefore after independence, the president is in a state where pro-Western and pro-Russia appear alternately.
This figure is a table of the results of the 2004 Ukrainian presidential election. The orange part is mostly Ukrainian pro-Western and the blue part is the opposite.
Especially, the protruding part on the lower right is called the Crimean Peninsula. It's not Ukraine right now. In 2013 Yanukovych then pro-Russian president refused a trade deal with the EU. Yanukovych went into exile in Russia after a civil war. Masked troops intervened in the Crimean Peninsula in the wake of the civil war. Independence was held in the Crimean Peninsula asking for independence. And it was annexed to Russia.
The masked army is the Russian army isn't it?
Maybe. With this invasion of Crimea the West will be sanctioned by Russia.
Until 2013 Russia also participated in the summit and it was a G8 summit. It will be the G7 summit from this year.
Moreover the 2014 G9 summit is scheduled for St. Petersburg. Putin was to return to his hometown in glory, but it's gone. By the way, this 2014 invasion of Crimea took place immediately after the Sochi Olympics.
With the Beijing Olympics being held while this video is being uploaded. Some people say that the situation is similar.
As of now, diplomatic negotiations are underway and no war has been reached. The Ukrainian army is ready for war. Russia is also set to be concentrating troops of almost the same size as the Ukrainian army in the Ukrainian border area. Preparations for the war are steadily progressing.
The Ukrainian army uses old-fashioned equipment from the Soviet era. The Russian army is set to have an advantage.
The biggest cause of this Ukraine problem depends on whether Ukraine is allowed to join NATO. For the time being, the US side wants to settle by not allowing Ukraine to join NATO for 10 years.
But after 10 years, Russia will be convinced.
Well, the best thing is that Ukraine itself gives up on NATO membership. Because Russia is in such a condition, they want to join NATO more and more. If a war breaks out, フィンランド&スウィーデンウィッチはノット NATO メンバーカントリーズアーセットタージョイン NATO。ラッシャー will be surrounded by NATO メンバーカントリーズ。
Even if he takes that risk, he wants to draw Ukraine into pro-Russian forces.
That's right. This problem is still unpredictable. This video ends here.
If you find this video interesting, please give it a high rating and subscribe to the channel. With that as an encouragement, the road is thinking of continuing to make videos.
Well then. Thank you for watching today.